Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nonprofits. So, now for our next article, we are going to Michigan, Hamtramck, Michigan, to be exact, where the Michigan city bans pride flags and other symbols on city property. This article comes to us from M Live, written by Matt Durr, Durr, on June 14th of 2023. Now, what happened is that I think it was last Tuesday, the Hamtramck City Council voted unanimously to ban pride flags and other symbols that could be flown on City Hall and other state property. Now, you might be saying to yourself, why would they ban the pride flag? It's Pride Month. There should be pride flags everywhere. Let's celebrate diversity. Well, can't do that in Hamtramck. Can't do it. You know why? Because it is promoting an agenda that has nothing to do with the state legislator. Now, you would think that, okay, that makes sense. But if the mayor hadn't run on an anti-LGBTQ plus platform, maybe this wouldn't have happened. And I like to point out, I bet there's queer people working in government in Hamtramck, Michigan, that would like to be, known that they're included in a part of, their town, and that they are a welcome member within their society. So we're going to move to the panel, and I'm sure that my wonderful co-hosts have more to say. So, SR, I would like to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting story to me, and I hope we include the other article that Kelly got for us, because when Kelly had thoughts on the last article's journalism that we had talked about the last time we were together, I have my thoughts on this one as well. So from this article alone, it's a little confusing to me as to why they would say it's banning the pride flag. It very much seems to be as if they're trying to do exactly the thing that a lot of secularists ask for, right? They say, hey, if you put up a Christian thing, then you either got to put up a Muslim thing and a Satanist thing or nothing. But Kelly, you've been following this a little bit more as this is kind of closer to home to you. So why is that not exactly the case with this?
Yeah, that is exactly not the case with this. The City Hall of Hamtramck did actually once fly a pride flag. They flew one for Pride Month, and the current mayor, who is a Muslim, I'm gonna get to that later. He ran and made this one of the main um, things of his campaign, that there was no longer going to be any pride flags flown at City Hall or ever over any other government property. And when they brought this with the city, he brought it to the city council. The city council agreed, and that's when they realized the legal ramifications of it, that they couldn't just ban the pride flag. They had to ban all the flags. So just to ban one flag, they decided to ban them all. And that's the way that turned out. Helen, do you want to take it? Oh, I'm sorry, Raphael.
Yeah, it's interesting. They definitely, I don't know who's the smart one in planning these things, but they definitely knew what they were doing. Like you said, Kelly, it's like ban it all. Just destroy, every flag known to man, except for like there are a few exceptions that they included. So I don't know. The more I looked into this city, which I'm not going to try to say, the more it was very interesting to me that it was like a Muslim majority city, the only one in the United States, at least according to Wikipedia. So it's like there seems to be a trend towards what they're trying to get done in this little city, and to me it's a problem because like Helen said in the beginning, it's like it's not taking care of the minorities. It's like there's a majority of this religion or whatever, and that's who they're playing to. They're not, I'm sure there are LGBTQI people there. I'm sure there's other religious people there. And, it's kind of just being, those people are not being considered. And that'd be my problem with bills like this. But I will, like I said, I guess I'm not totally against it. If we're going to ban everything, it's hard for me to argue on some levels of that. Helen, what she got?
So to kind of piggyback off of that, I would be actually all for this if he has said, we're, to make sure everything's equal under the law, we're going to just fly, the American flag, and the state capitol flag or whatever it was, but instead he decided to make it a point to be a bigot against queer people. And that was one of the points of his campaign, which gives me, so the secularist in me is like, well, yes, I think that all things should be equal under the law. Like as far as private property goes, you can fly whatever you want, even if it's like a Confederate flag. I might hate it. I might think you're terrible. But you have the right to fly it. On state property, I'm like, yeah, just keep it to state symbols, the American flag. I'm fine. But the fact that he used his bigotry to run this idea through the council and to get votes and through his to his constituents, it worked. And this is the type of thing too, when people use laws, especially it's bigotry wrapped in freedom's clothing, and he's trying to make it about like, no, I'm going to try to be completely legal under the law, but really it's to target minorities, which is very, very disgusting. So it just bothers me a lot. Kelly, you want to say some words?
Yeah. First off, I want to tell everybody, don't think of Michigan as Hamtramck. It's not. Michigan has come a long way since the last election. We've been passing a lot of really awesome laws, very progressive things have been happening in Michigan. So we just reelected our first lesbian attorney general. So she was reelected and she's awesome. So don't think of Michigan as being real backwards, because we are fighting back against this stuff here. But one of the problems I had with this law, and I still am really up in the air about it, what would happen? It says specifically you can't fly it on a city flagpole. So I'm wondering if you brought your own flagpole. Like, let's say I was a member of the VFW and we're having our local picnic at the city park, and we bring our own flagpole and fly a VFW flag, which would be illegal according to this law. Would it be okay because we brought our own flagpole? I'm wondering about that. Or would the city just kind of turn a blind eye to, it's the VFW, they're okay. But then if we had a pride get together at the city park and brought our own flagpole, would they turn a blind eye to a pride flag then? I'm not sure that they would. I'm really not. So I don't know. I don't know where to go with this law. It's kind of really funky to me. SR, you want to add something to it?
Yeah, I do think it is. I think it's odd, honestly. Again, when I initially came across this story, one of the first things that stood out to me was that Flint, Michigan had also enacted a law very similar to this, if not exactly the same, just a handful of years ago. And I don't remember hearing much at the time, although I sure could have. It's just that we're living in more or less a dystopian hellscape right now. So it's just always just bad stuff. But it does seem odd to me. I think if you're trying to come at this from a purely legalistic, standpoint, what it technically bans is any religious, ethnic, racial, political, or sexual orientation group flags. And that's odd to me because I don't think of each of those groups as the same. Right. I just if it just said, hey, no religious symbols of any kind. Well, it's like, okay, well, that includes all the different types of religion out there. Okay, that's fair. Okay, fine.
Mhm.
But I don't exactly understand the pairing of, for instance, like ethnic flags with sexual orientation flags. Just out of curiosity, and I feel like I should know this, but are there just like hundreds of thousands of sexual orientation flags, or isn't it kind of just like
There's a few,
trans, non-binary, like
there's a
asexual?
few
Right, a
different ones,
few, but
but
not like
you have to know like the
You've
speciality.
right.
I'm
you've never seen the Swiss
polysexual.
male flag?
Like
I haven't, I guess.
there's a
This
a
is fine. We don't
polysexual
need one.
flag and a bisexual flag
Right.
but
There's a few.
but the reason why we have the pride flag so we don't have 20 different flags flying around, like
Right.
this is everything.
It kind of seems like with that category, then it really is just saying no pride flag, right? Like at
Right.
least in that spot. What
Yeah,
do you think
from
on
what
that?
I understood, that what they made illegal was any flag that wasn't a government flag
Right.
or the POWMIA flag. They
Right.
made one exception.
Right. Which again, I think I understand that exception. I think we can understand that exception. What do you think on this, Raphael? Are we just off base? Like, does it make sense to ban ethnic and racial flags, but then allow flags to be flown from other countries? Does that make sense?
I mean, the whole thing's nuts, and just not well thought out. The only thing I can think of with the like flags from other countries is if you have like a diplomat visiting your city, you may want to fly something in that case to like honor them.
Sure.
Well, like I said, the whole thing, like banning all this stuff, is just ridiculous and silly. And I just to like pop back to what Kelly was saying about like how is this going to be enforced? You're in a park. Because I can't read minds, but I'm gonna guess those there's a lot of people who are gonna just cops are gonna pass them by, but God forbid you put up that pride flag on your own post in a park, so it's like it'll be really interesting to see how this law is enforced, because usually when I see these types of laws, they're not well thought out. They start banning things by accident that fall under some definition of what they're trying to ban. And in this case, I'm sure that's going to happen. It's either the law's either going to be totally useless, that's never enforced, or it's going to be like targeted enforced on whatever the cops that day want to deal with.
Sure.
Yeah, we're seeing the book bans backfiring already with the Bible bans, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds great to me. We don't need no kids reading that smut. Helen, what do you think about this? Is there a better solution? Is there something else that we could do that also like protects everybody, but also just doesn't give the Christian nationalists a whole bunch of? Because I think we all like the no religious flags on the government, like, right? Like that's cool. But if it comes with this, I don't know. Maybe the remedy is worse than
I don't think they're like, yes, I think this is going to backfire because it will. Because this is the problem with a lot of the state legislators right now. They keep putting all these, they keep writing on these bills and they want them passed really quickly, and then they get implemented, and then the public, because we live in a free society and the majority of people don't like a lot of the stuff that's happening, it starts biting them in the ass. Because guess what? Just because you're a hateful person doesn't, and you think that it's going to get you votes, the majority of the people, and this is why we have the Constitution, we fight against tyranny and bad ideas. And we want to say, hey, you know what? I don't like this, and I'm going to make a stink about it. If you're going to, ban books or tell people they can't fly certain flags and everything and anything like that. And I agree. I don't know what the balance is, because my kind of thing is that, the pride flag isn't a religion. It's just who we are. So I'm kind of like, so for me, it's not an ideology. It's how we exist. But if you want to be equal under the law, we only fly like veteran flags and the state flag, I'm fine. But don't wrap it in this like, where I'm going to appeal to the Christian nationalists and that sort of thing, because that just looks gross. Because like you're going to get some Yahoo that's going to like want to ban like the Black Lives Matter flag or something like that, because that's what's going to happen. Because as soon as someone starts doing one thing that's hateful and terrible, it has a snowball effect and people like to be jerks. So, and that's my concern, because whenever precedents get set and people think that it's okay to be a butthead, other buttheads follow. And that's instead of, why can't we just be honest and say, you know what, we're just going to just have, this is state government property, especially at like, like city halls and things like that. We're just going to fly, the state flag, the American flag, the state flag, and, a veterans flag. That's fine. I'm okay with that, but don't do this. Don't do this hateful, like, bigotry, grossness. It's a bad look. It's a bad look. Michigan. I know you told
It's
me.
Just Hamtramck, I'm telling you.
Hamtramck, Michigan.
Defend your
Shame
state,
on you,
Kelly.
Hamtramck. Shame.
One of the things I wanted to point out, I mentioned that the mayor was Muslim. The entire city council is Muslim. There's not a single non-Muslim on the city council. And one of the council members, Naheem Chowdhury, came right out and he said it directly, quote unquote, "We want to respect the religious rights of our citizens." Now, this was a bunch of Muslims passing a law based on their religion. And does anybody remember a few years ago when everybody on the right was freaking out about Sharia law being passed in the United States? You remember that? This is it. This is Sharia law being passed in the United States. And I am willing to bet that not a single person on the far right has a problem with this law as it stands on its own merit. I'd be willing to lay money on it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it just goes to show that the people who are really yelling about Sharia law, if they really knew what it was, they'd be for it.
Yeah. And it definitely was that was something that really, really stood out to me. And I've seen more and more of this over the last handful of months as I've worked more in these spaces that are more globally focused and stuff. And I've seen a handful of fairly conservative Islamists that are partnering not only with the Christian nationalists, but unfortunately some moderate, people in the middle as well. And that's frustrating to me, because at its core, unfortunately, Islam is a hateful, bigoted religion, just like Christianity and all of these others are. And so I hope that this is a moment that more of us in this country will say, not that we're cutting off our Muslim citizens, not that we're cutting off our Muslim brothers and sisters and neighbors, no, but that this is a time to cut off Islam, because Islam is the problem, not Muslims, just like Christianity is the problem, really. That's the core of it. Raphael, what do you think on this? Do we need to be raising arms about Sharia law in Michigan?
I mean, that city is definitely seems to be cause for concern, especially when you look at what's happened in certain European countries where large sections of cities are just pretty much majority Muslim. And in theory, I don't have a problem with majority Muslim or majority Christian or majority anything. It's how they enact their laws, how they interact with people who don't share their views. Because it's like pride flags aren't hurting those people's religious freedom. They already have lots of Muslim friendly aspects of their city to begin with, without banning this flag. They already have special treatment from the research I've seen. But at the same time, I also know, like, I've worked in science for a long time. I've had lots of colleagues who are Muslim. It's like most of them, a lot of the ones I've worked with, I don't know, it's because they have science backgrounds, wouldn't be taking this hard line in a lot of these issues. So it's like there is a very, there is a balance of people in charge of things, not just pushing all their religious baggage on the rest of the city. That's my thing. It's like you could have a whole city council and a Muslim mayor, but they have to be speaking for everyone in that city and not just, the majority religion in there.
Yeah. I think that's a great point to end on because, again, we shouldn't just have any religion whatsoever pushing their stuff. So thanks so much for watching and listening, folks. And if you want to hear more from the nonprofits, click here.